Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well. Today we got a little bit different project than we've been doing, working on the camper truck. Today we are making a keychain rack or key rack shelf. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was a fun little project. Had some extra time today, decided to use some of the material that I've had sitting around for a real long time just to knock out, a little functional piece of furniture for the house. Obviously, first things first, we gotta go ahead and make sure all of our material that we're going to be using is nice and flat and square. This board happened to have a real gnarly twist to it, so just ran it through the jointer quite a few times. I only showed you a little bit of it, but did that, and then went ahead and moved over to the planer, which we'll do right after this. Yeah, so you can see here we're just running it through the planer, and how twisted that board was with that one edge there. Um, oh, okay. I guess we forgot to put a clip on there showing us finishing that up. But yeah, that thing was pretty twisted. It took quite a few runs through, but still ended up with about 1.25 inches overall thickness. Um, Maybe even close to 1.5 inches whenever all was said and done. Took me a couple of tries, but finally got this squared up. I just like to sneak up on it. Didn't want to rip off too much material, and then ended up with, too short of a overall stock for the project that I'm trying to do here. After we got the one edge squared up to the edge, we went ahead and got our clamp out, did some adjustments so that we could get our overall, um, just get one nice clean straight edge on here, because we didn't run any of these through the jointer to square off the edges. So it's kind of important that we did that here. So after this, we could go ahead and get the overall thickness ripped down for the shelf size that we wanted to use. You can see here we actually got our fence in place, went ahead and set it to about 7 inches, and got a high tooth glue. It's actually a glue edge ripping blade on the saw so that we can get a nice clean finish, and just rip this down so that we can just utilize the material that we would like for the remainder of the project. While I was in there, I went ahead and cleaned up the rough edge on the piece of walnut I decided to use. So the other side was a clean edge, but this one was clearly still rough. So went ahead and ripped that so it was nice and clean some as well. after doing a little measuring, decided to take a little bit more off of this piece of walnut. So you can see that edge was pretty clean, but just running it through with this blade leaves a really nice finish for us to go ahead and be ready to sand and everything when we're on to the next steps of the project. I did decide I wanted to do a waterfall edge on the um, one side of the shelf, so went ahead and cut a 45. Again, the sliding table coming in clutch here. I really, really like the setup on this Robland X31. I don't think they make this tool anymore. This one's, quite a few years old, but really like these combination machines for a small shop. You could see here, had a small chunk here, a little bit sketchier of a cut, but we got it done, kept our hands out of the way, used a clamp to keep things safe, so worked out pretty well. Now the next thing I did is I did decide to put a biscuit in here on the 45, so went ahead and knocked that out. I actually purposely made it a little bit loose, just using it for alignment, not strength at all, but it definitely does help during the glue up. While that was in clamps and drying up, I did go ahead and set up the drill press and just knocked out some recesses for the magnets that I used. Later on, I'll go ahead and use some epoxy to get those magnets held in place. Now, I would have preferred to have a Forstner bit to do this, but I didn't have any on hand that were the right size, and this one worked out fine. Pretty much just filled all the cavity up with epoxy later, so no big deal. I did go ahead and shorten everything up after doing the holes for the magnets. I realized that I didn't need that long of a piece, and it actually worked out that I realized that when I did, because I don't even think it would have fit where I put it if I would have left it the full length. Happy accident. As I mentioned before, I am, mixing in some epoxy here with some activated charcoal. I really like using activated charcoal for my coloring whenever I'm working with walnut, or if I'm looking for a dark or black color in my charcoal. I know you can use dye, like drops and all that stuff, but I've always had really good luck with this. This one actually has a little bit of a sparkle to it, which was a little bit different too. So I don't know what's going on with that. Now for the epoxy itself, I'm using a 1 minute fast set epoxy. Now it won't actually set in 1 minute because I live in an environment where we don't have enough humidity to meet the requirements, as well as my garage shop is probably colder than what the manufacturer would recommend for temperature. But it works out really, really well. It gives me a little open time to get this all done. And for this project, worked absolutely great. Now, I don't know if these are, what kind of magnets these are. I bought these off Amazon for some other projects a long time ago. Um, Now, I did struggle quite a bit with these because they are stuck together and they are ridiculously strong. But got them apart, got them in there. I did get one that got covered in epoxy that ended up back in the box, so that's probably ruined. But otherwise, totally worked out. And you'll see here in a second after I get these guys all set, I do go back over all of them with some additional epoxy. And the only reason I did that is because I had the extra epoxy sitting there and I figured might as well use it. Fill any voids around the edges because the holes were slightly larger than the magnets. Now, a few of these magnets ended up sitting a little bit proud. So whenever I went with the sander, I ended up taking off the black powder coating from the magnets, and I didn't really like the silver poking out of there. So I just went back over them with a paint marker in black just to get that black consistent color to match with the epoxy. So went ahead and get our sanding mat put away. Again, I'm just using my table as a workstation. I really should set something else up, but this works out fine. Just doing some dry fitting here, trying to, get everything aligned. I'll go ahead and mark this out here in a second, but just trying to get an idea of exactly where I want to get the glue set up. Now, after getting this out of clamps again, glued it up, just regular type on two, no special glue there. I did come back a couple of hours later, mixed up some Rubio Monaco Pure and using a white Scotch Brite pad, just going and getting the whole thing covered up. I really, really like Rubio Monaco for the vast majority of my projects. I used to be a polyurethane guy back in the day before I didn't know better. But like, I mean, look at this stuff. I'm not wearing gloves. It makes grain beautifully pop, and it's super easy to use. Now, for a project like this, because it's not going to be something that's getting really heavy wear, I'm doing one coat. I'm going in and I'm going to do one heavy coat. I'll let it sit for a while and then I'll wipe it all off and we'll be good to go. Now you can see that side by side, the way the Rubio makes even the grain on the Hackberry, which typically doesn't have a lot of grain contrast, the way it pops. It's fantastic. Now, I went ahead and, tried to avoid the paint that I had put on the magnets just because I didn't want to mess that up. But overall, the contrast between the walnut, the hackberry, and there's actually some really cool grain over there on the end of the hackberry that kind of matches the walnut. This thing ended up being way cooler than I thought for just a super basic, quick project on the weekend. Also, just side note, always super impressed with how far Rubio goes. I ended up mixing up way too much, which I mixed it up a very small amount using that syringe and still had a lot of extra. So here's the final product. I have maple cabinets, and I think the hackberry and the walnut contrast really nicely against it. Nice little piece for me to organize my keys, set down my wallet and my multi-tool. Yeah, fun project for a weekend. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.